Hey guys, welcome to Tiny House Customs. I'm Dan. If you didn't catch part 1 of this video series, the link for that video, as well as the other parts of this video, will be in the description below. Be sure to check it out. In this video, I'm going to be installing the main roofing panels, all the standing seam pieces. So again, I've never installed metal roofing, so pretty much everything I'm going to be telling you is kind of stuff that I've learned through some research and watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, please. What does that even mean? A grain of salt? I mean, I like a lot of salt. So first thing you got to do though is get your total length of your tiny house. And mine is 21 foot 2 3/8. So now you're going to take that total length, divide it by 2, which is 10 foot 7 3/16. And I'm going to put a mark on the center of the roof. So I'm going to hook on to the end of my roof on the drip edge here. 10 foot 7 and yep. So I'll put that mark there. So that point right there will represent a ridge for the standing seam. 16 1/4 inches from the center of the rib to the center of the next rib. So from this point, I'm going to go over 16 1/4 and I'm going to times it until I get all the way down to the end. So I was editing this video and I realized that when I'm doing this portion of the video and I'm finding the center so that this rib is in the center so that I end up with equal pieces on the side, I realized that if you end up with like a 3-inch piece on the end, that's not going to work. So what you need to do is, instead of going with this being the center of your roof, that center rib, this peak right here, you want to make the center of the panel the center of your roof. So you would need to shift this panel over half the distance that it is. So if it was a 12-inch piece, you would go 6 inches. If it was 14, you'd go 7. And if it was 16, you would go 8 inches, right? That sounds like a mathematician right there. Amazing stuff. So what that'll do is it'll end up making that end piece bigger. So if you use your calculator, you just do 16 inch 1/4 plus 16 inch 1/4 equals 32.5. You can mark all these numbers so you know where the center is supposed to be. I'm just trying to get to 113 3/4. So I put that end of the tape measure on that center mark at 113 3/4. Now I'll come down here and I'll put a mark right there, and that is where the center of the last piece will be. So if I were to start with a full piece here and I would have kept going, I would have ended with maybe like a 5-inch piece on that end. So this makes sure that this is the same distance from the end as that side, if that makes any sense. I know it doesn't really, but so now this is where it's going to get a little complex and complicated. So I want to make sure that these panels are running perfectly square with this drip edge on the front here. So I made this first mark and I brought a panel up here and I measured over from the center mark to where the edge of the piece starts, where the nailer strip goes, and I had 14.5 inches. Now if I measure from the bottom of the drip edge to a point on the top, and I had 102 inches, I then measure from this red line over 102 inches. I entered in that 102 into my calculator for the rise and the run, and I got a diagonal length. Now if I hook my tape measure onto that point right at 102 inches there, so now I put my tape measure on that 102 mark, and I come up here and I want to measure to when I enter that 102 for the rise and 102 for the run, I'm going to get my diagonal length, which is I believe 144 1/4, and I'll put a mark like that, and then I also have that 102 inches, and where those two lines intersect is right here. Now I snap a line from this point to the bottom where I made that first mark at, what was like 14 inches or something, and that way I know that this panel is running perfectly square. So now that I have this line snapped, I can start putting my pieces in. This first piece and the last piece are going to be the two hardest pieces to install. Once I get this first piece in, the main body is going to go really quick, and then it'll be hard to do that last piece. But right now I can get this first piece ready. So now I'm just going to take my length, I'm going to hook onto my drip edge, and I'm going to measure up to the top, and I have 103 inches. So let's go down and cut that. So this is the roof panel that I'm installing. It's 16 inches wide, and then it's got like a tongue on this side and then a groove on this side. This just snaps into this side over here, and this has the nailer strip right here. So there'll be no exposed fasteners on the outside of this. So I want my panels here, the bottom of them, to snap into the drip edge. So I need to put a bend in it just like this. Now if I measure this, so it's 1 inch. So my total length was 103. I'm gonna cut a piece at 104 so that I can make this bend in it. So I put a mark on both sides here. I'm just gonna take a framing square and put a square line across. Doesn't need to be dead nuts as long as you're within reason. What's reason? I don't know. Now again, you can cut this stuff with some tin snips. I'm going to use an angle grinder with a metal cutting disc because it's easier. That protective coating you can remove whenever you want. Probably after you install it maybe, but I've heard that when that stuff gets exposed to the sun, it'll bond to this and it'll be real difficult to remove. So, all right, so now I need to put a bend in it at 1 inch up. So I'm going to measure up 1 inch and 1 inch over here. Now this tongue portion will get completely removed. This over here, I'm going to cut across the top, and I'm going to remove the outside of this, and I'm going to put a cut on the bottom right here so that this piece right here can fold back and get reconnected here so it'll close up that end. So I made a cut to remove the bottom portion. Now I'm just going to remove the top. I'm going to come straight. Now because this is coming in on an angle, I need to nip the bottom of this so it's running flush with this piece right here. So to make this bend here, you can get a hand brake like this. It's just a clamping thing and you put it on here and bend it down. Now the problem with doing with a small one like that is it's going to end up being kind of jaggedy. It won't end up being straight. So what I did was I made one. I got some aluminum angle. So what I did is I took 2 of these, put them on there. I used a pair of vice grips, clamped it together, then took it off, drilled holes, and put these bolts in it, and then I put a long one for a handle. So what happens here is this just slides in here. Hopefully, I mean, that was the point of it. It doesn't want to go right now though. Yeah, damn it. Get in there. Yeah, I like it. Good. So I'm just going to push that all the way in, make sure it's tight. I'm going to bring it up to the edge of a board. I'm going to push down on the roofing panel, and then I'm going to push down on this slowly, watching for any imperfections. Make sure I'm staying tight in here. And I'll bring it all the way around. So now I got this bend in it. I have this made. This piece is ready to bring up, and I need to cut it to length. I'll need to rip it to length, so I'm going to show you how I do that next. So now I have that red line, and that red line represents this outside edge. And I also have that bend that I made in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this so it goes into my drip edge. I'm going to put it on my red line here, and I'm going to put it on my red line up there. So now this piece is overhanging the edge there. So what I need to do is temporarily fasten this in and get my length. Now you could measure and snap it, but if your fascia trim is going all squirrely, it's not perfectly straight, that'll cause problems. So what I did was I screwed this down temporarily, and I took my pencil and I went and I hung over the edge, and I just marked all the way along the whole edge so I had a line. Once that was done, I took the piece, flipped it over, and I used my chalk line and I snapped the line to see how straight it was. And the piece that I had done was straight. Remember, these videos are extremely hard to make. You know that I've been working for about an hour and I have not had zero progress. So now that I have that piece marked, I can go down and cut it to length, or rip it to length. Whenever you're using an angle grinder, you want the sparks to go away from you. So if you're cutting and the sparks are flying up in your face, just flip the saw around so the blade's going the other direction. You just go like this or like that. Or sometimes there's arrows. But that requires thinking. So that's going to send the sparks that way. That's really, 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 really loud. Like, can you get some hearing protection? Thank you. Peter, come! I'm not coming nowhere. You f you. This has nothing to do with this video, but I woke up, went to the bathroom, came back downstairs to go back to bed, and Peanut was going nuts. And I pull the cover over me, and as soon as I do, something goes running / flying across my body. Scares the living shit out of me. I grab all the blankets and I rip them out, and I go outside, I shake them off. I think it's a mouse. So I go and get a mouse trap, and I bring it back down here, and I'm setting it up. And Peanut, I'm yelling at Peanut, go get it, find it, Peanut, find it.
Oh, I cannot find it, Dad. It's unfindable. It's a mouse, man, and they're like tiny, and I cannot find it because you can hide pretty much anywhere, you know?
So she ended up going back into the crawl space, and she started going nuts again. Next thing I know, a little bird comes flying out there, and I screamed like a little princess. So now there's a bird in here, and there he is right there. I see him. I think I have to knock this window out. Let him out. Ah, motherfucker! You see him? Look at him. Look at him.
Motherfucker! Go outside!
Here, he's out there now. Close this.
Motherfucker, go that way! Ah, motherfucker!
Yes, you're on your way. Peanut, leave it. All right, Peen. Holy shit. That shit was crazy.